Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday, which means it's time for yet another salty Saturday morning with a fantastic panel of nerds. Today, we are going to be talking about the season finale of Rings of Power, as well as an episode of Andor where stuff might actually have happened. Shocker, I know. So today we have a wonderful lineup here, starting with Matt Vader 74. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, bud. It's Saturday morning. I'm sufficiently adorned with salty nerd stuff, and I think I'm ready to go. I'm still waking up. The caffeine is kicking in, and it's Saturday. I'm here. Right here we are. Okay.
Well, someone who doesn't need any more caffeine, judging by all those Red Bulls in the background, is Brian from the Popcast. How you doing, buddy?
What's happening, boys? Good to be
Those
here.
were just from last night, right?
That is from the last few days of editing video, yes.
And joining us for the first time on the stream is Joker Voice. How you doing, Joker?
I'm doing wonderful. Since we're talking Rings of Power, I need to drink, so we're just gonna get this started right here.
Yeah, you were hitting that up in the green room pretty hard there. Yeah, I think we all need some of that to talk about this. And of course, last but not least, Mr. Paul Chateau is back for round two.
Yep, nice to be back again.
He came back.
Thank you for joining us. He came back. Yeah, I know. Everyone's surprised.
I am fanboying so hard right now.
So
continue. My ego requires it, so keep feeding it.
So real quick, we're gonna give a shout out to everyone in the chat. Thank you all so much for being here. Gavin Blackburn, Anthony Mark, Mr. Farnsworth, Richard Lawson, Chris Retzlaff, and Dusty Neely. And of course, Joker is in the chat because he's usually our moderator, but now he is on the stream with us today. And we're going to be talking about this wonderful, epic season finale to a show that has broken every single preconceived notion of what it means to be a fantasy series, The Rings of Power. So overall, guys, this was not a good finale, I didn't think.
No.
We're gonna go through the three main storylines, but I want to just go around the panel and get everyone's overall thoughts on the finale. Let's start with Mr. Chateau. What did you and your canoe head counterpart think of this season finale?
No surprises insofar as the pace, style of directing, style of writing of the first 7 episodes. 7th episode, something finally happened. Like for the first 6, nothing did. The 7th episode, the orc guy opened up the Mountain of Fun Orc Land and started the flume ride, which ended with the wonderful lava pit ride for the kids, and the wall of exploding boiling ash, which is always fun for the kids.
The Cheeto
that
dust,
was fun. And then ended with the Doritos coating, just before you leave the park, they coat you in Doritos salt. So so this was no different. I mean, we were waiting for the mystery boxes to open up, and the problem with mystery boxes is that you either figure them out ahead of time, so they're of no surprise, or if they've lingered for too long and they open it up and it's not a big deal, then that's a problem too. So, we've got a bunch of opened boxes. We've got those 3 acolytes that thought they had Sauron, but they had not Gandalf. And if these were prescient entities that were, proto-wraiths, why the friggin' hell didn't they know they got the wrong dude?
Paul, I'm good.
Yeah. So it's the whole thing started with them as a mess. Unfortunately, they've got a lead character that is not charismatic, interesting, functionally illiterate at all, and we've kind of we've opened up some mystery boxes. We know who Sauron is. He's going to go away. We still have 17 rings to make. How are we going to do that? So I mean, I the only good thing about the last episode is that we didn't have to deal with Bronwyn Andor or whatever the guy's name is, or the
Don Numenor and Girl Boss win. Yeah.
or the Bickering Dwarves, the new sitcom on Rings of Power, the Bickering Dwarves. So that's it. That was the only upside to it. Just horrible writing. Just again, thank you. I have no interest in watching next year.
All right, Joker, you've been making videos on your own channel about the Lord of the Rings series. This is the first time our audience is going to get to hear your thoughts on it. So what did you think of the season finale?
I actually haven't been talking about Rings of Power. I've been talking about 2 other crappy shows and a good show. Speaking of the good show, Amazon had a layup. They had an absolute layup. You were going up against Game of Thrones off the disastrous season 8. You had everything going in your favor, and you proceeded to screw it up. And if I was to say any opinion whatsoever about this last episode, at least a greasy Harfoot died. That was great.
Yeah.
And the writers deserve the Jason Todd treatment. I'm just saying.
Okay. No actual threats of violence on the live stream. So, Brian from the Popcast, what was your overall thought of the Rings of Power finale?
Jason Todd was the Robin that got murdered, right?
The second
Yes.
Robin, yeah.
By the crowbar.
Gotcha.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, he's not dead. Just so we're clear.
Fine, Red Hood. Get technical about it. Fine.
Yeah. I was actually reviewing it yesterday, and I was blown away when we had this realization, like, oh, that's right, we're not reviewing this next week. This was the finale. Like, this was their big.
It was like a weight was lifted off our shoulders.
Right. This was their big final epic episode that is supposed to tell you to come back next season, and I was so excited. Because the closer I got to the end, the more I realized that I wasn't going to have to watch this show every week anymore.
Yep.
When we as reviewers go, hey, we're gonna watch and we're gonna review the show, there's 3 things that happen. Either we like the show and it's genuinely a pleasure and we're enjoying it, and we complain about some stuff, but we go through the show episode by episode and we pretty much praise the majority of what we're watching because it's a good time. Or it's horrible and it's work and it feels like work, and some people get entertainment value out of it because we got to complain and we get this cathartic release off of our chest. But for the most part, just watching it alone feels like you're clocking in. Or the third thing, when nothing happens, there's nothing to complain about or be good about, and that also feels like work. But this is one of those things where it's like it feels like work every week, and this was their big shot. This was their final episode, and their final episode did nothing for me. In fact, I was even more annoyed because they couldn't even they had to hint at that being Gandalf. They couldn't just say it's Gandalf. They beat around the bush, and they did that thing where he's like Hardyfoot or whatever her name is. You follow your nose. Like, we get it.
Nuri.
Was it Nuri?
Nuri.
Nori.
Harfoot,
like,
greasy
like,
Harfoot little kid. Follow your nose.
Brandyfoot.
Brandyfoot. Follow your nose. And which was a right then you're like, oh, okay, so it's Gandalf for sure.
And they missed a really good gag. He said when they talked about following your nose and he was sniffed first, he should have like taken a stick, pushed Nori as far away as he could, and went, oh, now I can smell it. Oh, okay.
Right.
That would have required talent from the writers.
Yeah, Shane yesterday. He's like, I didn't notice that the
Jason Todd treatment. I'm telling you,
the Harfoots have pointed ears. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess they do. You couldn't tell because they have all that trash on their heads. It's impossible. They look like the Kazon from Voyager, man.
That's it.
Yeah, so Matt Baker's on before.
Gypsy trash.
What did you think of the season finale?
Well, like Brian was saying, this is one of those shows that I just had a really hard time getting through. You okay there, buddy? No, he's not. Don't die. We go through this show and we try to come up with stuff to talk about every week, and we were doing a 2-hour show on this thing, and I finally went up and I said, Matt, we can't do 2 hours on this show every week. It's just it's too much. It's too bad to talk about. I can't talk about this show for 2 hours every week, and it's because it's just such a bad show. And it's the same complaints that we have pretty much every week. You know, I mean, how much can we talk shit about this show? You know, it's just it's kind of too easy. You know what I'm saying? But I can't really add much to what everybody else has already been. I can't talk today either. I can't really add much.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, I get it. There's not a lot else to be said. It's a bad show. I mean, I kind of missed Don Numenor this week. I wish we would have gotten a little bit more of him, and we didn't get any dwarves, which I thought was kind of strange. But you know, hey, at least we got to know who Sauron is, and it was really kind of interesting to me how
That was a surprise.
those three idiots had the wrong guy. Where did that come from? How did that happen?
We're going to talk about that.
Really? I mean, it was just very strange. It's like, oh, we just got the wrong. I don't know. It's too much. It was.
And they said a trap. They said a trap, and you're like, why
their
did they say trap?
Sauron Dar was not working.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, the Nazgals.
The
Nazgals.
Nazgals. I like that.
I like
The
that.
Slim
Nazgals.
Shadys are not.
I-
They're not supposed to be those.
I called them trans wraiths.
Yeah, I was shocked
Nazgals
when
came from Az.
yeah. Okay. Yep.
Wow.
All right. Well,
I like
yeah,
the
so-
Nazgals.
this
Thank you, Az.
this series, it feels like it should have taken its time a little bit more, because it feels like everything was so rushed, especially in the finale. And speaking of rushed, Odin is now with us. Hey,
Oh,
Odin.
nice.
Hello,
Howdy.
Odin.
Thank you for being here.
Welcome, Odin.
Odin, we were just sharing our overall thoughts on the season finale of Lord of the Rings. What did you think about the season finale?
Oh, it was fun.
Fanboying again.
It was so much fun in the worst way possible. I mean, I did not see any of those twists coming. I love especially the setup for, hey, guess what? Not Gandalf is totally the dark, is totally the
It's
dark
Sauron,
lord of the
yeah.
universe. It's completely Sauron. It's like, yeah, no, we knew that immediately when he landed that he wasn't. So maybe ask the question, hey, who are they making this for? Because if they're keep making it for fans would have immediately said, yeah, that's crap. So, yeah.
How did he
overall
survive the crashing inside that meteor?
And also, why didn't the fire give off any heat?
Right.
Well,
Magic
he's a
fire.
wizard.
Yes, he's a wizard. He's
I-
a meteor wizard.
In your tongue, I am a
Yeah.
wizard.
You're
I
a
actually
wizard,
heard-
Harry.
I
I am
actually-
Dumbledore.
actually heard who the hell this morning? I heard Jane Theory talk about this, that these that Amazon acquired a property that they really didn't know who the fan base was, that this is one of the largest, most knowledgeable the fan bases in the world. And so when they deviate even just a little bit, the fans are like, no.
Well, they
Yeah, that's-
deviated a lot in this episode. So
A lot.
let's get to the storylines real quick, and then Vader, you can chime in.
No, it's fine.
Do we have
So-
to? Do we have to get to the storylines? I mean,
Yes. The stranger is tracked down by the Slim Shady Brigade and told that he's Sauron, but when the not hobbits arrive, there's a wizard duel, the black guy dies, and not Gandalf is revealed to be Gandalf. Gandalf and Frodo then leave the not hobbits to go to the east on Gandalf's quest to see a constellation. So this was like the Gandalf Hobbit storyline of the season. Matt Vader 74, what did you think of the culmination of this storyline?
I don't know. I was confused, I think, a little bit about how the Nazgals got everything so wrong. It's what a weird insert into this show, right? I mean, they literally built a lot of the promo and marketing around the bald Nazgul, right? I mean, everything. I remember everything I ever
Slim
saw
Shady.
about this show was
The real Slim Shady.
a picture of this person looking all ominous and threatening and evil and stuff. And It was, and from the get-go, this is what they did. And we got her, we got it on the show for 5 minutes, the entire season, maybe, right? And then the end gag was just like, oh, we got the wrong one. And then, not Gandalf flicks his wrist and turns them into butterflies, and they flitter off, and it's over. It's
moths, please.
moths. Okay,
Moths.
very strange. Very, very strange.
It's a memberberry moment. Remember the moth from Lord of the Rings? I remember.
Oh, yeah. So all the moths in Middle Earth, all moths in Middle Earth are now
repurposed lines.
repurposed Nazgûls.
Yes.
Is that how
I remember.
I like how their
Yeah.
entire existence was literally just to, one, remind people of the moth, but also, two, was just to give him the information of how to learn how to control his powers. That is
Yeah.
like literally the purpose that they exist for, is to show him or tell him where he needs to go for that.
I'm also wondering if maybe they missed the mark when they showed the scene of the big fight with the fire, and homeless Baggins got the knife in the chest, and everybody
Best part of the show.
everybody in the planet cheered. Everybody was like, yes, yay. I don't think that was their intended reaction.
No.
You know what I'm saying? I literally kind of smiled and smirked a little bit. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
kill that
Kill
little,
those little dirty
little
animals.
psycho.
he had enough energy left to
Watch a
the
sunrise.
one Nazgul into the toe with the
Uh,
knife.
Yes.
It was funny. It's like,
It was
But-
a flesh wound until the very end.
yeah.
But it's good to know that he will be written in the Book of Death as an idiot, so he's fine.
Yeah, he got killed fighting 3 transvestites.
I was
Brian-
reminded that the staff, the power staff, only had a 1 use level. Like I would have put it into my, into my, what is it in the game?
Upgraded it, yeah.
I would have upgraded it. Like made it a level 10. At least
Yeah.
got 2 more uses
You got
out
to drop
of
it
it.
in the talent tree, and then you got to start upgrading it
Yeah.
with all the
Yeah.
different
Yeah,
materials.
damn it.
Yeah.
I mean, if I know
You
that I
can bring
only
back
have one,
Jeffrey.
if I have one
Oh,
use out of
shit.
that staff, that's
Bring back
no good.
Jeffrey.
So, Brian, I wanted to ask you, do you think it was cliched that the black guy was the only one who died?
Why are you asking me this?
'Cause I
Everyone
want to hear
here.
your insights.
No, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I think it's hilarious that when you look at the Harfoots, it's, and I never looked for this before, like I never cared, but now I'm sitting there looking at like every Harfoot, and I'm realizing that they have taken every single possible person or identifier on the planet, and they've put it into one camp. And literally, there is every single race, color, size, you name it, in this camp. The Harfoots are like the whole world decided to take all their smallest people and make one camp. And it's just silly. And the way he died too. Like, why did the Slim Shadys have to set up a trap for the Harfoots?
Why did he have to imitate Nuri to
Right.
trap him? Like what?
The purpose of the trap, like for the Harfoots, like why do you care about the Harfoots at all? They're like rodents. Like what does it matter?
Also, it required knowledge that he had some type of connection to Nori in order to set that trap to begin with.
But why was the
Joker-
trap needed?
I
Like he
don't know.
doesn't know who they are. They show up and say, "Hey, dude, we're here to beat the living shit out of you, so you don't over Sauron, because we don't want you to do over Sauron."
They don't want you
you
to go
know,
full Sauron just yet.
Yeah, we don't do full Sauron
we
just
don't go
yet.
full Sauron.
So we're gonna
You
beat
never
the
go
living.
full
I have
Sauron.
never seen that on any psychiatric treatment list.
Yeah.
To beat someone else up first before they get fully cured. That's
But now it makes sense.
So-
I'm gonna do that whenever my cousin is having like he's out of control and he's drunk. I'm just gonna beat the crap out of him every
There you
time before he gets drunk.
There you
So
go.
before we get to Joker's take on this, we got a super chat. Want to highlight if Vader.
Sorry, I'm
wakes up.
slacking, man. I'm slacking.
Fluffy Panda for $5. I want to make a joke about the shocking Sauron and not Gandalf reveal, but this show is so bad I can't even. I was rooting for Femme Shady Nazgals to kill him. Indeed. Just a quick reminder to everyone, we appreciate every super chat. And if you guys want to support what we do here, send us some super chats. We will stop the show to read them. Thank you very much, Fluffy Panda. You're always very generous.
Yes,
we
thank
appreciate
you.
it. Joker Voice, what did you think of the not Gandalf reveal that he actually is Gandalf?
He's a
So
wizard.
we get a repurposed fight between Gandalf and Sauron. That was fun. We get a repurposed line where Sauron from Lord of the Rings tells the Balrog to go back to the shadows. He tells the Nazgûls basically go back to the shadows, and then culminates with "I'm good."
It's good.
You shall not pass.
He did.
Well,
Right.
I guess his hooked on phonics has been working because now he can complete full
Right,
sentences.
he speaks really well. Has a great grasp of the English
Yeah.
language.
Well,
And
you
then-
see, the fight with the Nazgûl, it releases this pre-existing knowledge.
Well, this is another issue with the show where like you never know how much time has passed during these things. But apparently, like between the time he fucked off from the Apple Grove to the time where the Finn or the Nazgûls catch up with him, he's learned how to complete sentences. So,
Right, by himself.
Paul, what did you think of this storyline? You already mentioned that why the traps, why any of it really?
I have no idea. I all I can say is that as a writer, you fall in love with your own ideas, and I can kind of see that somehow they went, oh yeah, this is going to be good, without really realizing that it wasn't. I mean, this was their best shot at it. They, you like it when you write it, so they must have liked it when it went through the process, the table read. It must have, and when the dailies came in, you have to understand there's an awful lot of executives and people involved when when you see the dailies. So someone saw this, and no one said maybe we should do a reshoot on this. I don't know. There didn't seem to be many checks and balances in this show.
So Paul, I have to ask: Does the character who says no lines have to be at the table read too, and just kind of blow the fire around?
Yeah, they would be all at the table read.
Okay.
Yep, they would all be there.
So, Odin, one of the things I found interesting about this was that when the Nazgûls finally figured out that he wasn't Sauron, they said like he's the other, but we know that there are at least like five wizards in total in Tolkien's universe. So wouldn't he have been one of the others? What do you think the thought process here was?
Oh, you're assuming there was a thought process. I don't think there was at all. I think they were like, "Hey, this would look pretty cool. Let's do that."
Right.
Because that entire sequence, as was mentioned, was nothing but nonstop member-berry sequences, right? Because one quick fact check on Joker Voice, it was Saruman, not Sauron, who they were calling back to. Because remember in the fight with Saruman, he's like sideways, being twisted around.
My mistake.
It's kind of funny in retrospect, but in the moment, you're like, oh, that's actually kind of bad. Like in this moment,
that's
It's not
one
a
of the
moment-
Universal rides at Universal.
Oh, really?
Well,
But
they also set up that there's this constellation that can
Mhm.
only be seen from like a certain point on Middle Earth, which is not how constellations work, by the way. But
maybe here it does.
But they give him a place to go.
Rune.
Rune,
Yes.
which is to the northeast of Mordor, and apparently this is a place where Sauron pulls. a lot of
Matthew
his
fact check.
followers
It's
from.
Mordor.
Yes. So Odin, complete your thought here.
Yeah. So
actually
you had that
creepy.
moment, right, where it's like, okay, that's a throwback. And then when he does the "You shall not pass, I'm good" moment, you have another throwback to Weathertop, where they become like those like ghost images, right? Like the other side, the other world images.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
The
oh, okay.
unseen world, yeah.
The
Yeah, the
unseen world.
Nazgûls.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, look at that. That we've literally talked about this last week that they were going to be confirmed to be Nazgûls, and sure enough, yeah, that moment was like, yep, that's what they were thinking. They were thinking these are the Nazgûls, and it's funny how people who have been saying things for months have turned out to be so correct.
Well, Gary specifically has been
yeah.
pinning what's his name as Sauron.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I mean,
Hallbrand.
Halbrand
not
is
Sauron.
Sauron, and there was that brief sleight of hand where they tried to, oh no, it's going to be the
Gandalf.
dude in the house coat.
Yeah, I think it's funny that everyone's
bathrobe.
theories were like proven correct by episode 1. It's
Yeah.
just like
give
there was
Gary
no
credit.
there were no
said it
His
from the
source.
beginning.
surprises.
His source, yeah.
There were no surprises in the finale. Like everyone knew that this was Gandalf. Everyone knew Hallbrand was Sauron. It was just obvious. So like I think that's one of the big issues with the finale is like there were no like huge revelations that surprised anyone.
The
What
only
they
surprise
should-
was
what-
how bad it was done, how poorly executed each one was done.
What
Like that was,
That is true. That's the big twist.
yeah.
What they should have done was have Galadriel stop the show and crawl out of the screen and go to the writer's room. Okay.
It worked
And go-
in the other show,
and-
right?
And say,
No,
listen,
it didn't.
and say, listen, all of the fans of this show have already guessed all the big reveals. So we need to take this stuff and flip it around so that they're all wrong.
Yeah.
And then all the writers could go, oh yeah, you're right, CGI fake Galadriel. And then she crawls back into the show and they start over.
And
Yeah.
there's this
And
robot
change
called
everything.
Jeff that
Yeah.
runs everything.
Yeah, looks like a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
By the
so,
way,
yeah.
I secretly loved that in She-Hulk. By the way,
Oh, shut up.
No, shut up.
loved it. It was
No.
the perfect end to a bad series. It was.
Yeah.
I will
like,
say
yes.
it was the worst possible ending they could have thought of, which
Yes, that's
made
what I'm
it
talking about.
perfect
It's like-
in a certain fashion. Yes,
It made
Ugh.
it in a way. It made it sort of perfect. Yeah.
a perfect
Uh,
evil. Yes.
We have
They
a super
were
chat.
so proud of themselves.
We have a super chat from Whiskey Jack for £2. This episode was at X2 compared to the rest of the show.
Well, something happened. Stuff happened.
Yeah,
Yes, stuff happened.
yeah.
But yeah, Whiskey Jack, thank you for the £2. Really appreciate it.
And,
I mean,
and
he is
Odin,
right.
are you a lore master
Am I a lore master?
for LOTR?
By no means.
Oh.
I my
Don't let the
my-
beard fool you. He's not that wise.
Yeah, it's my dad read The Hobbit to us when we were younger, and also read a little bit of Lord of the Rings to us, but it was not enough for me to
Oh, I
become
see.
a lore expert.
I,
but-
my understanding
Yeah.
is that there were no wizards in this age that they placed this series in. Is that correct?
I believe that is correct, because the
I
other
believe
thing
that's
too,
correct.
if they really want to go, we showed this tweet on Friday Night Ties last night where someone was making these predictions of things like they wanted to see or they didn't want to see happen, and every single thing they didn't want to happen ended up happening.
No.
But the one caveat they put was they wanted the wizard to turn out to be like a blue wizard, because there are different classes of wizards that
Right.
exist. So instead
Gray,
of
white.
going in that direction, which might be interesting, instead it's like no, it's gonna be Gandalf. I mean, we're just not even gonna be clever with it.
Right.
Yeah, maybe it could have been a proto wizard.
Yeah.
A human that travels in a fireball,
Sure.
Falls from the sky.
falls from the sky. Now, is there any precedent that anyone knows of with regards to some character arriving in a fireball?
Well, the idea is that the wizards are Minars, which are basically like angels. They're,
Yeah.
they're sent from like the gods
Ah.
to Middle
Okay,
Earth.
yeah, I'd say I don't know.
And
Yeah.
and I believe Sauron is a Minar as well.
Right.
And
And-
so like these are like otherworldly beings that are like more powerful than regular beings, and they come from space or like the other heavenly dimension or like something like that. So there is a little bit of precedence for like, okay, he's going to fall out of the sky, but
That's how we knew it was
that-
a wizard right away, because
Right.
that's
Yeah.
how they enter into
Right.
Middle Earth.
Right. The only problem with that was Sauron has been on Earth and was last seen on Earth this entire time.
Mhm.
Well, he's been around since the breaking of the silence, apparently.
Right.
All right, so let's get to the next storyline, which is Elendil takes blind Queen Muriel home to Numenor to find the king has died. But before he died, he told Elendil's daughter, Erin, about the seeing stone, and she goes and pulls a sheet off of it. The end. So this was a kind of a throwaway. I like how the Numenorian fleet is now just one ship, and they made it back in like 6 days time to
6 days.
Numenor.
Mhm.
Yeah, at least. So Odin, what did you think of this gripping storyline?
Every time you describe one of these scenes in a way that overplays it, it just grinds my gears. But oh man, what was honestly the worst part of it for me was the way in which it was shot. them finding out the king was dead, because they give you that line in the very beginning of, I think it's actually the very beginning of the episode. They start in Numenor, and so they give you the line about what will happen when the king dies, about the black flags, etc. But the way that it's being shot as they're coming into the harbor, it's making it look like either Numenor is like on fire, that everyone has left, that there's been a coup, like that's where they're trying to film it and how they're trying to make you think. And then the reveal is, the king died, and it's like, so that was a complete waste of several different angles of this ship coming in.
So much though,
it was so stupid. It like every single part of this thing was so overblown, overdone, and just a waste of time and millions of dollars.
Paul, the thing that got me about this scene is that the queen is blind, and she keeps asking everyone, like, what do you guys see? And everyone's just like silent. They're just like, we're not going to answer the blind queen.
I mentioned that during the Midnight's Edge thing. Like, shut up. Just like tell her. And I was doing the same thing as Odin was talking about. I actually walked up to my television set and went, okay, is it on fire? Is it blowing up? Is something happening here? Because I didn't know what was going on. And I completely forgot about the black flag thing. Mm-hmm. And yeah, she asks a question. Is it Elendil? Is that the
yes,
Isildur's dad?
Isildur's dad, Captain
and just like, tell her. Yeah. The woman's blind.
And that's another reason why it's a way of them making you think something else is going on. Because if it was as simple as the king's died, they wouldn't have taken all that time to be like, oh, no, don't worry, blind queen. We're not going to tell you about your dad.
But it was a dramatic pause.
Yeah.
So Joker, they sailed to Middle Earth with 4 ships, or 3 ships, I should say, each one with 400 people on it. So does that mean that they lost 800
and horses?
People?
And horses.
800 people, horses, supplies, the whole nine. Because the ships are actually a TARDIS. They're bigger on the inside.
Like icebergs.
I just like the fact that I actually, when I was watching this at work, there was someone in the bar. There was someone in the bar with me, and I asked out loud, "Why does she need to wear the blindfold?" And someone, no joke, said, "Well, she's light sensitive." I'm like, she's blind. There's no light coming in. That's the whole point of being blind.
And there's no damage trying to hide it for the sake of others.
No, really. That means nothing. And the fact that the character with the 2 greatest assets on the entire show is a intern with the sculptors and gets chosen to make a sigil for the king. I think we all know why she was chosen. It wasn't for her talent. I'm just saying.
It was her eyebrows.
I think Farinir's son hooked her up with that because he's sweet on her.
Sure he did.
Yeah.
Well, she's got eyebrows. I mean, did you see how they've colored those eyebrows? I've said this like 3 episodes now on this show about her eyebrows, all right? And I'm just saying, if you haven't noticed it by now, I've noticed
something else.
The artist who discovers the Palantir, that's a new mystery box.
Right. Yeah. Which I'm like, okay. And the king who's bedridden, all of a sudden she goes to tell someone help the king, and he's up and around, he's unlocking doors and stuff. And now
he pulls a Viserys at the end.
I was just gonna say, it's weird how this show and House of the Dragon had the same exact scene in the end of their finales here with
where the dying king mistakes.
But when you care about the other, you don't.
Right, exactly.
I mean, that's a very strange coincidence, right? I mean,
shocking.
It's very strange. Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Brian, so the big ending to this story is that Aaron goes to the Seeing Stone that was revealed with Galadriel and Queen Muriel in an earlier episode, and she just pulls the sheet off of it, and that's the last thing that we see of her, or that subplot, or anything else. What did you think of that reveal?
I don't know if that was another mystery box, or if they were trying to reveal that Numenor was going to be destroyed between seasons because they spent all their money on this season and they don't want to show it next season. I don't know exactly what that was. Like, is it another mystery box? Is it a mystery box that is supposed to entice us to get us to next season? I guess.
It's something they thought, honestly, would get some people say, I have to find out what she did after pulling off that sheet. Said
isn't
no
she
one.
going to see the same thing though? The destruction of Numenor.
Not necessarily. The question I have is that now that Isildur is dead and stranded on Middle Earth, I wonder if Aaron is going to be the one who rescues the leaves of the tree when Sauron comes and has Numenor destroyed.
That wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they're going to be playing around with that type of thing. Matt Vader 74, what did you think of the gripping Numenorian storyline here?
Gripping. Yeah, it was completely a throwaway thing. I wish they would have like at least shown us what was in the Palantir, you know, like had like Sauron staring back at her or something, you know, staring up at her ample
Bosom.
bosoms. Yeah, you know, it's like,
Tracts
oh
of
hey,
land.
yeah,
Tracks of land.
it was very
those rolling hills. Yeah,
very throwaway, very unnecessary. You know, I do kind of like the headband over the queen's eyes. I think that's kind of a weird fantasy trope too. You know, the demon hunters in World of Warcraft they're all blind and they all have bandanas over their eyeballs too. So I just
Justice
kind of
is
like,
blind. So
yeah, there you go.
Well,
So,
what's
I don't
weird
know.
is like when she was leaving the Southlands, she just thought that there was like heavy smoke, so she could still see stuff, just not very well,
I
right?
thought she was smelling the smoke, but okay,
Mm.
yeah.
Well, the reason she said, "Are we out of the smoke yet?" was because like her eyes were like all like foggy and stuff. But
Yeah.
I got the sense she wasn't completely blind, but who knows? All right, guys, let's get to the big storyline of this episode. Galadriel and Halbrand ride for 6 days straight to get to the Elf City and
Got
heal
rest.
Halbrand's wound, reunite with Elrond, and discover that King Gilgalad is like, fuck it, after spending all that time and effort building a new forge. Halbrand heals in record time, gets Celebrimbor excited about smithing, and reveals himself to be Sauron, to absolutely no one's surprise, to Galadriel, whom he offers to make his queen. Instead, he just fucks off back to Mordor while Galadriel, Elrond, and Celebrimbor finally make the 3 elven rings of power. Let's start with Brian this time. Brian, what did you think of the big A storyline in this episode?
Why didn't Galadriel tell anyone? Like Shane couldn't answer me. No one can answer me on this. Why didn't she go back and tell anyone about Sauron?
because she was in shock.
Okay, that's not a good reason. So she's been searching for Sauron for 1,000 years or whatever, and she doesn't go back to her. Hey guys, he's in the backyard. Come help me get Sauron. I don't understand that. Like, yeah, I wasn't surprised, but I was surprised by her complete lack of communication regarding the fact that the guy she's been searching for 1,000 years, and she's drug other people into this search, is now in their yard. I don't get it. Was she ashamed that she brought him there?
Well, did he put a spell on her or something? Like put her to sleep, and then he took off.
Well,
or
he was
something?
gone, so maybe her
Yeah.
mindset was, oh, he must be long gone. There's no point of even bringing it up.
She
which is
throws the
still
scroll in the
stupid, but-
water.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah, but then she goes back to the guys who are forging the ring and going, doing the supervisor thing.
Yes,
Uh,
but then
ooh.
that's what gives us the line. Well, that's why we need 3.
yeah.
But also, why did she have to use her dagger? Like,
Because they
is
needed silver and gold from the homeland.
We
Va-
could
va-
spend a third.
Valinor.
We could spend an hour
you mean the
on that
homeland
blade
they're in
melting.
right now?
No. It was from Valinor, which is
Valinor.
the
So-
Undying Lands.
There's no other gold and silver
Not pure enough.
Not pure
From-
enough.
From Valinor.
And
in the elvish kingdom, except
Yeah.
for her. And how does a gold dagger work?
also, apparently, it's actually
from
it
the
has to
hilt.
be. It would have to be a silver blade,
Right.
which
Wait,
let's just say it's got some problems to it. If we're
there's
going
so
that
many
route.
issues with that. In so
Well,
many
sure.
ways.
What was it?
Next week we'll get a professional metallurgist and blacksmith on the show.
We don't
I
even
was
need
actually-
to. Like, gold is
I was
soft.
actually I was watching Night's Watch the night that this aired the right after, and he was talking about, yes, you can put nickel with iron, but you're going to get stainless steel, which is not something you make swords from.
Like sinks out of it, right?
Right.
Yeah. We got a super chat real quick. Before we move on, Fluffy Panda for $5. This was as exciting as watching my Sabres hockey tank for a decade on one screen and watching the Waltons sort cranberries on the other.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very exciting stuff.
I'm so happy hockey season's back.
Right.
Yeah. Go Leafs.
Odin,
Go
in the
Knights.
books, Sauron disguised himself as this Lord of Gifts who spent a lot of time with Celebrimbor coaching him on different magical ways of creating, like new things in his forge. It was a very long, drawn-out process where, Sauron actually manipulated Celebrimbor and got him to believe in what he was selling him. And it was
That sounds
also
interesting.
and it was also that he could create rings that he could eventually control.
Mhm.
We didn't get any of that. In fact, before you showed up, I was commenting that I felt like this episode felt way too rushed between Halbrand and Celebrimbor. And Halbrand's advice was like, oh, maybe you could, put other metals into this metal. Like, it didn't seem like it was anything groundbreaking. So what did you think of the interaction between Halbrand and Celebrimbor in this story?
Oh, it was making my brain hurt. I mean, because the whole time I'm just listening to the words that are being said and thinking, oh wait, is this seriously how we're gonna figure out like metal? Like, also Celebrimbor, he's supposed to be like this expert, and he's learning about mixing
About
metals
alloys?
and alloys.
Right.
It's like, wait a minute. And also, did you notice what the title of the episode was?
Yeah, Alloyed.
Alloyed. What? I mean, everything about this episode is just the dumbest. And so, yeah, going back to that freaking blade, though, because we would all assume that the blade itself is not made out of gold or silver, because it's silly to make an actual weapon itself, like the actual, dangerous part, out of either of those. I'm not an expert on metals, but I know there are qualities of both of those that do not work. That would make them, illogical to be that. But in order for what they have just mentioned to work about, you need the purest of gold, the purest of silver, but we're going to melt the whole blade, which has gold and silver somewhere in it. But then also we assume then,
Steel.
an iron or steel blade? It's like, okay, well, that creates a problem because that's not pure silver or gold. So what in the hell? So I think even because I was mentioning this last night too, that I think even at this point, this episode, if this episode doesn't wake people up to how stupid the writing is, I don't think anything will. Because even someone with a very marginal knowledge of this stuff, as I would describe myself to be, if even I could look at this and say, wait, they're melting the whole blade, that doesn't make any sense. If even I can look at that and say, okay, this is really silly, and there's no way I can accept this. Like, if they were taking it apart and, going through a much more meticulous process, okay, that could be cool. But it says, no, it's just melt the whole blade. It'll all be good.
The handle
Nah,
could have been.
it'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
The handle.
It has to be the purest of gold and silver, but if we have a little bit of something imperfect in there, it'll be fine.
Nah, it'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
It was dumb.
Yeah.
It was
Speaking
absolutely
of dumb, Paul,
dumb.
I do feel like the Rings of Power thing was kind of rushed in a season called
Yeah.
Rings of Power.
I agree.
But what was Sauron's plan to get shipwrecked in the middle of the ocean, almost eaten by sea serpents, happened to come across a swimming nemesis that then takes him to the lost island of men so that he can steal a crest to become a smith and then go back and reclaim Mordor, which was his to begin with, because he's secretly in charge of all the orcs. And as a former network executive, please tell me the thought process behind this supervillain.
The only thing I could think of was that something happened during the wars, and that's where he ended up, and now he's just lost and trying to find his way back. So he doesn't really have a plan to come back. He's now just trying to figure out how to get out of the predicament that he's in to get back. And the fact that he then connected with Galadriel, and then all the sequence of events that happened afterwards, was just, from the imagination of the writers. And then you've just got one Deus Ex Machina moment after another. It's the whole show is written as badly as a high school theatrical production. So
Also, is my memory wrong on this? But wasn't there someone else on that ship?
yeah, a whole bunch of people.
I thought they were like more. So it's like, where did they come from? What's their story?
Right.
Oh, don't worry about them. It's all
So
part of the
that
plan.
I have
Where
no
did it come
idea.
from? Don't
And,
know.
and just to get back to the rings too, we're talking about 20 rings here, and please correct me if I'm my ignorance is that I don't know what the 19 rings were for. Apart from now, we have this notion that these 3 rings made from the remaining mithril that was available is somehow going to save the elves. So we have no idea how that's going to work. I thought the rings originally were influenced and created by Sauron's duplicity, handed over to the dwarves, the humans, and the elves. For what purpose, I don't know. Maybe it was they thought that it would help them defeat Sauron, but instead he was able to control them. None of that information is available in this show. And if I was writing this thing, I would say you got to have Sauron appear at the very, very beginning, so you know that he's manipulating all these people to create these rings. And then, as you, Matthew, pointed out, that gives us a much longer arc, or at least time. And it's ironic. Then the audience is going, don't let him help you make those rings. He's going to control you. Then that you've got a proper story.
Yeah, so like basically Celebrimbor was the one who basically forged all the rings based off of the teachings of this Lord of the Gifts who Sauron was disguised as. And they were given as gifts to all the different races.
To do what?
And well, it was basically they would enhance certain things. So like, for instance, with the dwarves, the dwarven rings would allow them to basically dig better, become more wealthy.
Gotcha.
But they actually increase their greed. So like for men, it was meant to like help them become like more durable, live longer, be more prosperous. But it actually made them more ambitious and therefore more cutthroat. And the elven rings were actually forged last, because once they realized that Sauron had deceived them, they made the rings outside of his influence. And that's the reason why like the elves weren't corrupted when they wore those rings. And those are the rings that actually protect the elven kingdoms in Middle Earth from dying. And then after all the rings are given, Sauron goes to Mordor, forges the one ring. And so all the other rings that were forged using his technique, he now has control over.
Right.
So it's this big thing that like was never explained in the show, which probably should have been.
And how did that control manifest itself?
Well, whoever wears the ring is basically able to supercharge the corruption of everyone else who's wearing the rings.
No, but what corruption in the sense that what was the one? How did the one ring manifest its?
So basically, like with the dwarven rings, it made them like very greedy, and so like they dug deeper and farther, and basically ruined their kingdoms because like they pursued that, and in hoarding all the gold, they attracted dragons, which then like terrorized the land.
Gotcha.
The land of men would go to war, and then they'd become Nazguls and complete thralls to Sauron and stuff.
Yeah,
like
they
that.
attacked each other.
You can see there's a lot of
for the ring.
Yeah, there's a lot of morality built into this. Clearly, you know, with Tolkien himself being a Catholic, you can kind of see it's like, oh, you get this gift, but it's a gift that corrupts.
It's a golden
There's a price
calf.
to it.
Exactly, right? And so it's just amazing. And again, all of that explanation that was just given is better than the hours upon hours of time wasted in this show. Like that simple explanation, someone could have filmed that with a really cool voice and some really cool images, and that would have been worth more, like an actual like value, than the entire series that was just given to us, which had none of that.
Had like Ian McDiarmid or whatever doing a voiceover with all that stuff.
I think they did have that. It was the prologue to the Fellowship of the Ring.
That's right. Well, the fellow we already knew that was better than this show, but
real quick, we got 2 super chats to get to. One from Mexican Iron Man for $9.99. Thank you, sir.
Hey,
I am racist.
great way to start. Great way to start a question too.
Yes, I am racist if I want to order a small group of Hartford for me to
Am
grow
I
tomatoes?
racist?
Am I racist if I want to order a small group of Hartford for me to grow tomato and jalapenos on top of their heads? I think he meant
Hartfoots, yeah.
Harfoots.
for me to grow tomatoes and jalapenos on top of their heads. I mean, it's not like they shower and don't have dirt all over. Just
No, you're fine. I'm fine with it.
No, they're probably perfect to
Right.
pick the crops. They're already dirty. They don't wear shoes. I mean, it's perfect.
And
Oh,
they
yeah.
probably wouldn't mind either.
No.
That
No,
would
they
be-
definitely wouldn't mind.
that'd be
You
kind of
couldn't even
funny where-
trick them to do it for free.
And since it's northern Europe, they probably would have used Scotch bonnets, not jalapenos.
No.
Yeah,
Yes.
you just they can't go off the path though. Otherwise
Maybe
they're left behind.
Harfoots could
Or
be
build
like
a wall. Then it would be racist.
Right.
Harfoots could be like Care Bears, where like whatever vegetable they grow out of the top of their head reflects their inner personality.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Dude,
Or
I actually did
Sauron
not know
Sauron
that
is
about the
trying to
Care
build
Bears.
a wall to keep the Harfoots out. That's what's going on.
Care
right?
Bears have like their
You learn
thing
something
on
new
their
every
chest.
day.
Yeah.
I think it's funny
Yeah.
that the general public who are watching this show, even down to like Joe Rogan, has clocked that the Harfoots are all assholes.
Right.
Like, they're just murderous assholes.
Yes.
It's terrible. Joker voice. Before we get to you, we got
Hello,
one more
Mexican,
super
by
chat.
the way.
Whiskey Jack for £2. An elf doesn't know basic chemistry. Come on.
I know, right?
So
you would think the greatest metallurgist
Smith,
and
right.
Smith
Yeah.
that's ever lived would
Alloys?
know that you need to coax the metals together gently.
yeah,
Tell me
You
of
know,
these
you need
alloys.
to-
How
that you
alloys
speak of.
work. That's like basic metallurgy 101.
Instead of
We
some
can't
random
force them together.
some random human white dude coming up there and go, "Hey man, you just kind of got to let them hug each
like
other."
trying to
and-
breed pandas,
mold
right?
and-
Yeah,
yeah.
Also,
And did anybody see that explosion
yeah.
in the forge at the
Which
top of
would-
that tower?
should have killed people.
That should
But
have knocked the entire tower down.
yeah.
And they're just in there dusting, sweeping things up,
Speaking
like
of-
it was no big deal.
Speaking of a forge, wasn't there a giant forge built by dwarves and elves for just
Yeah.
this reason?
Season 2.
That's what I wanted
That's
to
for
ask you,
season
Joe-
2.
I think they were in
Joker. So like this entire season, Elrond's whole storyline was about getting the dwarves to help them build this forge, specifically so King Gilgalad could help, save all of Elvendom in Middle Earth. And so like after about 2 weeks of construction, they finished this huge forge, and Gilgalad comes and says like, "Nah, fuck off. We're just gonna die." What did you think of this storyline, and how did they get that forge built so quickly?
I have no clue. Time loop, time jump, fast time. I like
Fast travel.
fast travel, sure, whatever. I like the fact that the previous episode, Halbrand, totally not Sauron, gets on has a mortal wound, but can ride a horse, and they've rode for 6 days nonstop. Now, someone brought up that the 6 days was because that's how long it took Gandalf to ride from Rohan to what's it called?
The mountain range thing. Looks like Joker froze there.
Oh,
Yeah, he did.
no.
So let's move to Brian. Brian, what did you think of Hallbrand healing in record time? And then like as soon as like the elves like treat him, he's up and running about and talking to
Okay, here-
Celebrimbor.
Okay, hold on. I'm
You're back.
Okay. Whoa, that was weird. So, that they to Gondor. Sorry, from Rohan to Gondor, and I'm like, okay, but Gandalf was riding Shadowfax. That's a horse god. Halbrand and both those horses riding 6 days nonstop would be dead.
True.
So
Yeah,
there's
very
just there's just no consistency in this at all. We have to admit our failure. That's it. We're leaving. Give me 3 months. That just seems so arbitrary. 3 months, and that's going to do what? You guys live for. I mean, yeah, your trees
Was
die.
it 3 months? I thought it was 3 weeks that
He said-
that Gilgalad gave him.
They said
I-
3 months.
Yeah,
3 months,
Yeah.
okay.
It said 3 months, but you're talking about creatures that live for centuries. That's a blink. to them.
I think 3 months was when they had to have the website up and running, was what they said.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes
Plus,
sense.
they need to get
Sure.
approved for their Etsy store. So
Right.
That's right.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, their Etsy ring store.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Brian, don't you think that the whole kind of friendship and mentorship and seduction between Celebrimbor and Hallbrand / Sauron should have lasted a little bit longer? Like it just seemed like really rushed at the end there.
yes.
I mean, Galadriel got jealous.
Yeah, no, the whole thing was rushed. I know that they needed like Sauron or Halbrand, whatever, to have like he needed to bring something to the table in order to entice them into believing him. I believe the alloy thing was the wrong thing. I don't know what it could have been. It's just poor writing that I'm trying to fix. So it's not, I can't. But as far as their friendships goes, it's interesting how the show called The Rings of Power spent like 10 minutes talking about rings. And then the rest of the show, there's at least 15 minutes of slow motion for no reason. So like their priorities are really off. And when it comes to that relationship between, well, all their relationships, but specifically the one you referred to, they don't really have time, they don't have time to develop proper relationships because they spend too much time talking about or talking to characters that don't matter and talking or characters talking to their horse. I don't know what's that about. So they don't really have time to develop the correct relationships or spend more time on the actual titled element of the story, the rings, because they spend a lot of time every episode and this episode on slow motion shots and conversations and exposition that has no actual purpose. Like when the blind queen comes, how much time was spent trying to draw the audience into what's going on with Numenor? It just a lot of time was spent. Like if I'm sitting there and I'm clicking through my seconds, I'm like, every scene is just drawn out and dragged on, and then the scenes that shouldn't be drawn, that you should spend time on, are rushed.
I have
So
a
this-
question.
It feels rushed somehow, and it feels slow. It's hard to explain.
Brian, are we supposed to care what's happening in Numenor?
Yeah.
Hmm.
No,
We
we're
are?
supposed. No,
And I don't care anything
I
about
agree.
it.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Whatever
I know. When they were like, we're going, yeah, I didn't care that they're even going back to Numenor. I felt like we were wasting time showing them going back to Numenor, but I know we're supposed to care about that because there's going to
And-
be a big set piece where the thing explodes.
Well,
And
so they even
apparently
wasted-
you can get from Middle Earth to Numenor in 6 days time.
Yeah.
Right.
Which means that when they went to go help Don Limanor fight the orcs, that it took them 6 days and then 2 more days to get to that point in the span of like one nighttime.
Yeah.
in
And that's the worst part.
Southlands.
That's really the worst part of this episode. We did not get any Don Lemonor.
I know. I'm
Yeah.
really upset.
We got barely any of him last episode, and then none of him this episode. I feel like we should protest. To be
Also,
honest,
I feel like if they didn't need like a whole bunch of mithril in order to like save the entire elven race, Eleanor or
Elendir.
sorry,
Elendir.
no,
You
it's
folks are talking like me
Kel-
now. This is great. I love it.
Celebrimbor.
no Elrond. Elrond could have gone.
I was like,
Elrond
okay, you said
could have gone
Eleanor. I need
back-
to find out what name he was trying to say.
No, they all begin with E's. So Elrond could have gone back to Durin and been like, "Hey, Prince, do you have like just like 3 more of those like little things that like
Yeah.
I could have to
Just
save
let
my
me listen.
entire race?"
Which
Yeah,
isn't
like
it
you
amazing?
don't have to mine anymore. Like you can just give me like the scraps you have.
Which isn't it amazing that when they throw it in, it's the whole thing, and yet they somehow tested it and blew up with other alloys that didn't mix well.
Yeah.
So it's like, wait a minute, where'd you get it from? Because you threw in what looked to be the whole piece that was still left over. I don't see anything that was chipped off. You didn't make any real Again, every single part of this episode and of this show has just been
Honestly, I'm just glad it's finished and
Yeah, Matt-
I don't have to watch it anymore.
Just this
I
season.
I do have one question, and I think it's something we've been trying to figure out online and in the social medias. But where did they spend this money?
The graphic.
Honest to God, I want to know where
Craft
this
services.
$16 million in episode
Craft
thing.
services.
I bet it was
When-
amazing. Crap.
They ate well.
Maybe
I bet
maybe
they ate
Paul-
really well.
maybe Paul can explain it. Is this $60 million an episode?
No, it's one of the things that has confused me, in that one of the aspects of Jackson's videos, all 6 of them, is just how well he populated the different regions that he went to. Even the fishing village that got decimated by the dragon felt like it was jammed with people. This is my biggest complaint about this show, especially with regards to the money, is that if we're talking about the rings that it's going to corrupt the humans, there's like 8 humans, and what's her
one
name?
small village.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a tiny village. The elves, there's like
7.
nobody.
Mhm.
The 7 elves, 7 dwarves, and this girl who's stuck in a
Snow
glass container. And the elves, like, where did the elves go? That's a completely bereft of elves. I'm not getting.
There's more orcs than there is anything else.
Yeah, there's more orcs than anybody else, but they keep repeating the same ones. Now, notwithstanding the magic of Helm's Deep and the amount of money that actually got put into that phenomenal battle scene, like I said, when the hobbits first arrived at the elf world, which Elendil, what's the name of
Rivendell.
It was magical. And it just felt populated with elves. And that is my biggest complaint about this show. It's empty of everybody.
Yeah, I just don't see $60 million.
No.
And where does
it's like, I feel like there's some weird shenanigans going on here. They got these 2 guys that have never made a television show before, right?
Every day it was lobster.
It's a different subject.
Tenderloin at Crest.
I know, right?
And they come in here and they make this show for $60 million or $1 billion a season or whatever it is. And I don't see it. I can't figure this out.
Because it's production cost. So because that was the other question I was going to ask was, does anything from production cost ever go to pay for the producers?
What do you mean?
So
there's above the line and below the line costs.
Right.
Okay. So when they say $60 million, right? Like, is that supposed to be specific to how much goes into the actual show itself, or is that including the cost of the writers, producers, etc.?
Yeah, that would be above and below the line costs would be the entire budget. I mean, that tower that collapsed on the orcs was the cheapest shit that I could imagine. We're going to pull this little stone here, and it's all going to collapse on the orcs. Oh my God! And the scene where not Gandalf, assaulted the tree and tried to have sex with it, and the branches came down. When I was a teenager, I did a video where I was standing on top of a roof of an 8mm video with Rick Green, and we dropped branches on people who went.
That was a $10 million effect.
It
was horrible.
It's not like they got actors on here like Robert Downey Jr. or something where he's getting $30 million up front to begin. These are all actors nobody's ever heard of before.
Yeah, that's why they got rid of Lenny Henry after the first season, because he was the most expensive actor.
Right. I just can't imagine the payroll being super high. So I'm just it's just very strange.
Because it all comes from Amazon to the production, because typically like a producer usually has some skin in the game.
Right.
I feel like some of the money in the game. So did the 60 million
Amazon was footing the bill for the whole thing.
Oh yeah. They weren't spreading the risk on this like New Line did. New Line had it all pre-sold.
Yeah.
But even if you take another Amazon production like The Boys, it feels fully populated.
Oh yeah. It's a good show.
One show that it was Strange New Worlds. Anytime they went off ship, it looked empty. With that one, that also felt underpopulated if they went to another planet of people. But The Boys does a great job of populating their externals. This one was just embarrassing, and you could even see the old style glass screen cutout where they have someone do the painterly background of something, and then they would key in just the area where your actors are in the very middle of it. They did that over and over again, but of course they're using CGI, not glass painting. It looked cheap as shit.
To answer Vader's question, so like there are certain logistical realities of like going to a pristine like outdoor location and not having power or infrastructure or bathrooms and having to like move stuff there for the production. That's one of the reasons why Island of Dr. Moreau went out of control, is because they were shooting in a place that was not didn't have the infrastructure to support the shooting, and they were doing this all over the world. It wasn't just like one location. It was like multiple different countries. I can see how this could cost like $60 million an episode simply from like the cost of doing business. I think each episode in Game of Thrones season 8 was something like what was it, like $40 million or $50 million?
Wow,
something crazy.
It seems like a lot too.
But they only did like 4 episodes, right? So, six episodes, yeah. So Vader, I wanted to get your take on Halbrand trying to tempt Galadriel to become his queen. In the big reveal that nobody saw coming. That Halbrand
I was shocked.
I
was surprised, honestly.
I was.
Yeah. I don't really have a whole lot to comment about it. It's very predictable. There was nothing happened here that we didn't think was going to happen. And, it just is what it is. I was bored at this point. I'm so happy this show's over. I really never want to talk about it again. I'm just over it. I really don't want to do season 2 on this thing. I won't. We'll just put it that way. It's just a big nothing burger to me at this point. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't care. I'm out. I'm done. They had their big reveal with the reflection in the water. It's like, oh, look, there he is in his armor, and Galadriel, the wizardess chick, and I'm like, whatever. It's just, I feel like they're just trying to ride the coattails of, the best trilogy of movies almost ever made in the Peter Jackson stuff. And this just doesn't compare. It doesn't come anywhere close. It's just it's a bad knockoff, I guess.
So, guys,
and yet another repurposed line. You would be my queen, stronger than the foundations of the earth. I'm like, oh dear God.
Yeah.
So, guys, the big news is that they're pulling a Westworld. They're going to take 2 years before season 2 comes back.
Okay.
And the interest in the show is just
the interest is already low.
I know
it didn't work.
It's like you're going from 1 to below 0. I mean,
that was one of the worst things they did for Westworld. That really hurt Westworld. Like, I don't understand.
Was that season 2 to 3 or?
It's every season of Westworld, basically.
Okay.
They took
There
like
are
a 2
people
to
who
3 year
love
hiatus.
this show. There are people who love this show. I've purposely gone to forums where people adore this show. So,
and are they already shipping
for them?
Are they already shipping?
Are they paid?
No.
No. There are people who love it. I mean, seriously.
Oh no, that's right. But I was saying, like, I bet there are people who are, even with the big quote unquote big reveal, are already shipping for Sauron and Galadriel to still be a thing even after the reveal.
Well, now that her husband's dead, she's
Galadriel
for it.
They should have stopped. He should have at least fooled her, and they should have stopped, and she should be pregnant with Sauron's
should
kid.
have smashed.
Oh, yes, that would be great.
Yeah, Liv Tyler is secretly Sauron's kid.
There you go.
Right.
See, they really missed a phenomenal opportunity.
I actually think that's great. Yeah.
Let me break in here really quick, guys. We got a super chat from Mexican Iron Man for $4.99. I'll read this one, Matt. The 6 of you are some of the smartest people I watch. I am confident that the 6 of you could deliver an amazing, epic, great show today, gents. Okay. First off, I am not smart. All right. I'm very slow. I'm kind of dim-witted. To steal Alex Jones's line, I'm kind of retarded sometimes. And yeah.
Buy my Alpha GPC.
I think Alex Jones is
extraterrestrial demons.
I think Alex Jones's line was, "I'm not paying that $1 billion."
Yeah.
I'll be in Ecuador by tomorrow.
This show makes me feel stupid. Okay, it's just one of those shows that I have such a hard time talking about. Every time Matt directs a question to me, I'm just lost. I'm in a fog when it comes to this show, and I'm so thankful that I do have five smart guys around me every week that actually kind of know what they're talking about. So in that respect, Mexican Iron Man is correct. So
what you just said, though,
$4.99, man.
What you just said, though, makes you smarter than them.
I guess.
Because that's what they don't have. Like, because if they gave you $60 million, you, Matt Vader, they gave you $60 million, you would be able to say, oh, I need to get people who could actually put this together. Yeah. I need to actually find the right people. And you'd be able to do so because you have that sense of humility of, okay, I know my own limitations and therefore I need to get the right people in. Whereas with this, it's like, hey, let's find people who don't have the right criteria to create this show and just give them $60 million and see what happens.
And we know how that goes.
Because JJ said yes, they're fine.
Yeah, this is something I've struggled with for 30 years. Me trying to talk about Tolkien is absurd. It's absurd. Okay, it's just so up here with when it comes to Tolkien and me. It's just ridiculous. But
and it just so happens that 60 million is the exact budget we need to do Viking Cop.
That's right.
So, just saying.
Right.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Wow.
All right, guys.
Circle.
So I want to go around the panel and get your final thoughts on season 1 of Rings of Power. Now that it's all ended and we can judge it as a whole season, I want to hear what your guys' overall thoughts post-mortem is. Let's start with you, Matt Vader 74, after that very eloquent speech about how you know nothing.
What more can I say? I'm glad it's over. And I hate to say that because I have to say that about a lot of current television that is out there. I said that for She-Hulk. I actually said that for that other show that we watch on Apple TV that we're going to talk about later this week, Matthew. I'm glad that one's over for a different reason. But I don't know, man. There's just so much subpar entertainment out there. I wish things were better, and I wish this was better because this has such a good pedigree, and it should be good. And that's, I think, what the most frustrating part about the whole Lord of the Rings thing is it should be amazing. This should be the best thing that's ever been put on television. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And they completely dropped the ball. And, I know Chad was just saying that there are actual people out there that like this stuff, but I can't believe that. I mean, I know there are.
I mean, there are people out there who like The Last Jedi.
I mean, but I question why. Why would these people like these things? This is like, I don't know. I don't get it. But yeah, no,
because they're brand loyalist and they don't think about things too deeply. Brian from the Popcast, what did you think of season 1 of the Rings of Power?
I'm so glad it's over. I'm just every week. So YouTube, everyone here knows YouTube's a grind, right? It's a grind sometimes. The parts of it that are not grindy, that are fun, is why you keep coming back to like create video and create live streams and do graphics and all the stuff that is required for maintaining a channel and entertaining people online. The fun stuff is why it's worth all the effort, because a lot of us will spend 20 or 30 hours a week creating YouTube content. Since the Rings of Power, it's been skewed a little bit for me. Every week, instead of there's been a lot for me too. Andor until the most recent episode. Andor and Rings of Power have been like work. So like there's already a lot of work, but as long as my enjoyment of the work is still a little higher than me detesting the work, then it's good. But then since Rings of Power, it's been like creeping slowly up where I'm not looking forward to Thursday night and Friday and the work that goes into that whole setup and all of that. And like, we gotta do the members review, then we gotta do the clip, and I gotta make a thumb. And like, I don't want to. Yeah. And it's until this show and honestly, until we start reviewing shows we don't like, I'm like, we're getting to this point where I'm like, I don't want to do this.
You know,
I don't
there's.
want to.
Let me interject really quick. There's a difference between a show like this that we know should be good, but it's so bad that it's hard to watch, and then there's other shows that and these kind of shows make our what we do not fun. It really
Right.
is not fun.
It's not fun.
To do this week after week. I mean, it can be, but for some reason, there's other shows out there. Like, for example, the show we watched last year on the podcast, Invasion. That movie was dog shit. Okay,
It was a show.
It was a terrible show. But my God, we had so much fun ripping that show a new orifice every week.
Right.
That it made it fun to come to work and talk about. This show was
Yeah.
the exact opposite of that.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Same thing with Andor. We were like, we until recently, we felt the same way. Like, it's not even fun talking trash.
Right.
It's not fun being salty. Andor enjoying it. Nothing about this is a good time. So I'm glad it's over because now that, you know, the scale for me of enjoyment to unenjoyment is going to flip a little bit back to where it should be, where I enjoy this. I enjoy the YouTube thing, you know?
Yeah. So, Joker Voice, what was your final take on the entirety of season 1?
Since someone's already mentioned Star Wars, I'm going to make a Star Wars reference from A New Hope when Vader told Tarkin, "This is a glorious event. It has seen the end of She-Hulk. It will soon see the end of Lord of the Rings." So we got 2 crappy shows ending in the same week. And I'm just going to echo what Popcast said. I would love to do videos on stuff like House of the Dragon all the time. I would absolutely love it. It is so much fun to talk about that show. These shows like She-Hulk, Andor, Rings
All
of
the
Power,
Star Trek out.
all the Star Trek, all the recent Star Wars.
Yep.
It's been just such a grind. It's becoming homework, and it's just a chore now. Whereas things that I've truly enjoyed, like the recommendation videos, I love talking about those. That is fun. That's enjoyment. I get to share my enjoyment for these things. I'm glad it's over. This is just a chore.
All right. Mr. Chatto, as a former network executive, what was your take on the first season of Rings of Power?
Well, I go back to the beginning with the marketing effort. So the fan baiting that's my biggest takeaway in memory as a former network executive, not understanding why they were promoting the show the way they were promoting it. I tried to make clear to my audience when it kind of blew up on Variety was the reason they promoted the things they promoted on Variety was because it was not directed at us. It was directed at the readers of Variety.
Right.
You have to remember. So like fans of the show got offended by what was in Variety, but Variety is not their magazine. So there's a learning process with some of the rage tubers when it comes to where, like, the medium is the message. Marshall McLuhan, everyone knows medium is the message. And so I tried to sort things out that way. I found, beyond getting into the specifics of the show, which we all agree was amateurish at best, really how they handled the whole thing to me was the biggest shocker. That's my takeaway.
Odin, what is your final verdict on Rings of Power season 1?
Well, I'm as well glad it is over, but I just cannot believe that they've already committed to and invested as much money as they have into the future seasons.
They have to,
because
it's in contract.
I know, and it's just I don't know how they're going to do it. I really honestly don't, and it really makes me want to. Since we were talking about production budgets earlier, I would love for there to be, I don't know if there would be a way for them to, maybe if they have to release their like full out, spending, like what they spent, like individual items or anything like that for their shows, or like in what departments got, specific amounts of money per episode, because I would love to find out where the money actually went, and just to find out exactly what in the hell they were thinking when they decided to actually go about this show the way that they did. Because even though this show has driven me crazy, I will say it actually has been fun to talk about, because I feel that especially with what's been done here on these Saturday shows, is we've been able to at least make it fun. And so I've been enjoying that tremendously. And I think that is something that I will definitely like miss in that regard. But I can absolutely also say that at least this show was not nearly as bad as She-Hulk. Like this show was bad, and it was a grind to get through. But She-Hulk was just bad. Like there was not even moments where I would be able to like laugh and everything. Like with this show, it's like, hey, I remember what we talked about last week about Jeff, or hey, I remember the ditch, and hey, I remember this or that. Whereas with She-Hulk, it's like, no, there's nothing. Like there's just nothing there. It's just my soul being sucked from my body. So for this show overall, if I had to give the actual first season a grade, I'm gonna have to give it a D. And I'm only giving it that high of a grade. I'm only giving it that high of a grade because I do think that I'm going to give props to the people behind the scenes who probably did try the very best that they could to make things look as good as they possibly could. And it's not their fault that they got bad writers and bad producers, etc. And so kudos to all of the the lighting people
right.
and all behind the scenes people who never get the credit they deserve, because they did, I think, as best of a job as they could on a show, given all the crap around it. So
yeah, Odin, I'd have to agree with you on the rating. I might give it like a C minus. I might go that high, but it was a very lackluster effort to re-enter the world that Tolkien created. And I think the most entertaining thing for me was watching all these like hardcore Lord of the Rings YouTube channels go from like, defending the show to by the end just being like, yeah, I don't like this show. This is not a Tolkien show. Like you can see the downward spiral on some of these channels that are just dedicated to Lord of the Rings, and they start off very excited. They're like, oh, it's beautiful, it's great, blah blah blah, and then by the end they're just like, yeah, this isn't Tolkien, this is fan fiction.
That's how Shane was. Shane's a massive Tolkien head, and like the first 3 episodes, he was like, no, it's working, it's okay, it's a little slow, but it's fine, it's gonna be fine. You're like, oh well, this episode wasn't great, but we can still get there. And watching him, like, I'm almost gonna have to make a super cut of Shane going from like,
please do.
I'm really happy about it, stoked, to like the final episode is really, he's like, I don't know what this. If I had to cut out like half of what he was saying because we don't curse on our channel.
I think one of the best piece of journalism was by as Heave versus Babyface. When he resurrected the panel of fans at the very beginning of the promotional effort, went to each one of their social media, Instagram or TikTok pages or whatever it happened to be. And from the moment the show started, not a single comment from any of the avowed Tolkien fan people, not a sausage, not even a, hey gang, the show is on. Right. Nothing. Zero. Bumpkus.
And
that was hilarious.
Actually, as putting something out in his series finale video, where he talked about how one of the fans said, I want to know more about that dagger. I want to know more about that dagger. Right. When it made no sense to even ask about that dagger. And as was like, this is proof these folks were just picked out at random and paid to give talking points.
And that was hilarious. I thought that was a great bit of journalism.
Even what Odin mentioned about that guy, because I saw that tweet where he did a tweet where he's like, here are the 3 things I don't want to see in the show. And those 3 things actually happened, and everyone's calling him out on it. And he's like, I still don't care. But one of the things that I wanted to address just to the panel in general is that, Paul kind of brought it up with that Variety article where basically the showrunners admitted they got the job because J.J. Abrams called up Amazon and vouched for them and asked them to, consider their pitch. And it was based off of that phone call that they got the gig. Odin, Paul, Brian, Joker, Matt, what this is basically J.J. Abrams' fault.
Yeah. Shocking.
Everything's J.J. Abrams' fault.
The
How does it always go
destroyer
back
of
to
franchises strikes again.
Dum dum dum.
Star Trek, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. Great.
I think JJ's pitch was these guys are cheap.
Yeah. JJ's like, here, check it out, guys. I'm gonna do for you what I did for Star Wars and Star Trek.
And then he tried. And then he tried with. Then he tried over at the Warner Brothers with DC
Constantine.
Comics. Yeah, with DC Comics and Zaslav.
Yeah, I don't know if it was DC Comics actually. I think he was trying to get in there, but he had a contract to make a science fiction show that I still to
Superman,
this day
right?
I
Superman,
can't pronounce it.
Right.
And then he had this idea of making an African American Constantine, an African American Superman. And David Zaslav comes in and goes, "Yeah,
No,
we're not doing any of that, and you're gonna have to give us at least half the money back that we gave you because you never produced a single
thing.
minute of television."
Yeah, I love David Zaslav.
I love David
I love
Zaslav.
that guy.
But I just want to get Paul and Odin's take on J.J. Abrams being the one who basically set into motion this whole season.
Odin, you want to say something?
I mean, it is actually, I will say it's actually kind of a surprise because for all of his faults, and there are many, most shows that have some association or tie with J.J. Abrams usually at least start off okay. And then normally it's like along the way or at the end, it falls apart completely. Whereas with this show, there was at no point that I feel like the guy in Billy Madison, right? At no point in your long, incoherent response to that.
Wait.
Yeah, exactly. It's
got that. I think I have that. Right, there we go. Oh, you can't hear it.
You are awarded no points.
And may God have mercy on your soul.
Mercy on
It's
your
like,
soul. Yeah.
it's like that is
We're all dumber.
how I feel. Yeah, exactly. Because anyone who knows anything, even just a small amount about Tolkien and his work, even if it's just from the movies, right? They look at this show and they say, this ain't it. And then you have the experts, the actual people who have actually studied Tolkien's work, read his letters, everything, and then they look at this and from the jump they would have been like, this ain't it. So all you're left with then are a bunch of either people pretending to like it and pretending to be fans, and then you have the typical normie, because there are normies that will enjoy almost anything, right? There are people that actually do enjoy She-Hulk. There are people who actually enjoy these shows, and so, but that number has just gotten so much smaller because they were relying on the hardcore Tolkien fan base to be behind this, and they don't got it.
Clearly, that's true. And me, as again, I'm a dinosaur executive. If I got those initial scripts, my biggest problem would have been, where's the ripping yarn, and where's the act break every 10 minutes? Where's our little climaxes every 10 minutes? I'm very old school. I'm sorry, but where's the story within the stories? What's the B story? Every single story has got to have an explosion in quotation marks that resolves in that episode. Then take your A story and arc it across all 8 episodes. But I want something to blow up every episode. Give it to me. Where's the woman?
Give it to me raw.
Give it to me raw. Where's the woman with the big?
Give me the
tits?
meat.
What's
Give it
wrong?
to me raw.
Give it to meat.
So the thing is, I'm going to be looking for the things that I know network television is looking for. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because there was none of that. And that's also my problem with Andor, is that where's the ripping yarn? I get you've got this arc and I get you've got this slow burn thing, but every episode have something that starts and ends. Please, like anything. So that was devoid of this. This did not follow any network rules.
So one of the interesting things that I got from that Variety article is that instead of Peter Jackson being the consultant on this show and giving advice and his insights to J.D. Payne and the other guy, it was J.J. Abrams, because for a fact they went to J.J. They were like, J.J., here are our ideas. What do you think? And J.J. would give them feedback under the table, and they would work that into the episodes, thinking that J.J.'s a genius.
Sure.
So like I feel like this is definitely like a show that was heavily influenced by J.J. Abrams' style of storytelling. And
Sure.
that
Mystery
that
box.
was that was definitely also these guys come from the Bad Robot incubator, and they were the apprentices of Roberto Orsi, who was like one half of the Unholy Alliance of Alex Kurtzman and Roberto Orsi back in the day. So these guys have all the wrong pedigree to be doing something like this, and I feel like J.J. Abrams had a lot more influence over this show than most people are probably aware of. All right, guys. So that was our discussion about Lord of the Rings. Let's talk about Andor.
Before we leave, we have to make sure that Jennifer Sulky gets as much blame as she deserves. Let's move on.
Okay. So Andor, episode 6, something actually happened this episode.
Yahoo!
It was called The Eye, and as I predicted last week, it was going to be about the heist.
Oh yeah,
the heist went off, and again,
that was a hard one to get.
My theory was that it's 3 episodes, right? It's a 3-episode arc, and these were initially meant to be 4 movie-length episodes that Lucasfilm cut into 12 episodes, and so you have to watch these in rounds of 3. But all that aside, I really enjoyed this episode. I've been liking Andor since the beginning. I like the deliberate pacing. I know I'm alone on my hill here, and I'm perfectly willing to admit that. But I want to hear what you guys thought. So Matt Vader 74, what did you think of episode 6, The Eye?
Some stuff happened. It was a heist movie, like we knew it was going to be all along. Most everybody that we didn't care about died, and the one person that we are supposed to care about lived. And there was some Star Wars things. There was a TIE fighter or 2. There was some Imperial people that were terrible shots, and that was about it. I mean, there wasn't anything new in this that I hadn't seen in a million heist movies already before.
That's the problem.
You know what I mean? It was a heist movie with Star Wars trappings, and it wasn't a very good one, I guess, is about the only thing I can really say about it. So there you have it.
So Brian, you said you liked this episode. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I actually liked it, which makes me mad because I was so close to getting rid of this from my weekly group of reviews that I'm doing. We're doing a lot of reviews every week. The members asked for it, so now we're doing like a lot of reviews every week specifically for the members, and then we release them as clips on our various channels. And I was so close to taking this off of my docket, and I didn't like it, and it was boring, and it really didn't add anything. And I had this whole video we prepared. We were like, hey, we're not going to do this. We're going to do the next Star Wars thing. So, come back for that. And then literally the following week, Shane's like, it was a pretty good episode. You should watch it. And just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. And here we are. I'm back. We're reviewing it again. And I actually enjoyed the episode. I thought it was faster paced. There were some things that I didn't understand. Like, there was definitely some criticism still, but it was worth the watch, and it was worth the review. Now, if Matt's right, and that's every 3 episodes, I swear to God, I will just start reviewing these in 3-episode groups, and I'll just ignore 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, I'll just come back every 2 weeks because I don't. The filler episodes are just so hard to get through.
That's not a bad idea. Maybe we should just do every 3rd episode. We do a review show about it.
Because you might be right, Matt. If you it's every 3 episodes. It's like, okay. Maybe it's cut up wrong.
It's definitely cut up. Like I truly believe that they made 4 movies as a miniseries, and then Lucasfilm and Disney cut it up to stretch out the content over the course of 2 months because they need that going into December. Joker, what did you think of episode 6, The Eye?
Well, if what you're saying is right, Matt, then we have another thing to blame Kathleen Kennedy for. But I love watching a Star Wars show because I love seeing people get chewed out by another mom while eating Cocoa Puffs with blue milk. That was great. I didn't know it took that long to get a TIE fighter ready to fly. God, that was arduous. And the one character that I actually did care about died. Great. End of it.
Who was that? Which character did you like?
The autistic kid, the only one which they have contingencies for everything except the one guy who knows the star path to get out safely.
Yeah, Nimic.
All right.
Nimic was the guy. Paul, what did you think of episode 6 Andor? I know that you haven't been on in previous weeks when we've done the show. So what overall is your opinion of Andor and in particular episode 6?
Overall, I think I find the art direction and the adult tone of it really refreshing. That's the one thing that brings me back, is that it doesn't feel, I'm not hearing beeps and boops of, like, it doesn't feel like the kids' Star Wars. I enjoy that. And I think there's something richer to be mined out of a more adult. In some ways, it kind of looked and felt the way I thought the Foundation should have looked and felt. Foundation was dreadful. So there's a lot to learn, I think, from this series. I'm weirdly ambivalent about Andor himself. He's like shoots people for no reason at all, so I get it that he's ruthless and he's not supposed to be your typical hero. It took way too long. The 2 episode setups are way too long for the payoffs of the third episode. I agree with Salty Nerd that this was a very typical heist. They didn't give us any interesting twists and turns. That would have been fun. Like it would have been great if a bunch of them pulled off their faces and they all looked like Tom Cruise. But I thought it was well done. I thought there was some good tension in there. I didn't like the fact that they killed Mouse from the Matrix. I thought that was a sad moment, but I give it credit. I mean, that show, the third show, I thought looked good and the pacing of it was good. And I don't know why Andor killed that guy for saying, maybe we should take more of the split. Fuck you. Poof. What?
Yeah.
Why'd you do that?
We're gonna get into that.
I'm looking forward to the next arc when they do a Star Wars version of Bridge on the River Kwai.
Right, exactly.
That should be super
But
fun.
my main thing is, as the network executive guy, there needed to be, where's the ripping yarn? Give me the B story that concludes every single episode to just keep me going.
All right, Odin, what did you think of episode 6, The Eye?
Still not good. It really comes down to, I think that last comment especially, there are no stakes. I don't care about a single character in the show.
None.
Like everything that was going on, I'm like, okay, I see what they're doing. And if they had taken the time to establish characters that I should care about, then maybe I would like this episode. But because it's still the same characters that I did not care about the previous episodes, and I still don't care about them now, when I saw them dying, I'm like, oh, okay, he died. Oh, okay, that guy died. All right, am I supposed to feel something now? And then you have, of course, Andor, who's the star of the show, and it's like, oh, and I still think this guy is completely boring. Just like in Rogue One, just like when they announced the series about him, I said, what, that boring guy? Oh, he's still being boring. So it's like,
I think that's called acting.
Yes, it's just, if that is true about the 3 episode arcs, and it's like, okay, then what we have are 4 individual limited series films, or limited series episodes or movies that are not very good because they're, again, characters that you don't care about.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit because I felt like the previous 2 episodes, I got to know this rebel crew. We got to know Nimic. We got to know Skeen. We got to know Barcona, who in this episode we learn is a former stormtrooper, which was kind of interesting, I thought. And then we also get Lieutenant Gorn. And so we had this little crew that I actually kind of got invested in, and I was starting to get invested in. And when it looked like the heist was going as planned, I was like, oh, cool, we're going to get to see more of these characters. And then every single man on the team dies. The 2 lesbians survive, and the guy they can't kill survives. So I was like, that's pretty typical. But I want to talk a minute about the exchange between Skeen and Andor, because on the surface it's a lot like what Paul said. It's like he just killed him for no reason. But the interesting thing in that exchange is that Andor realized that Skeen was actually a huge threat because he wasn't a true believer. He was basically a mercenary who was looking to basically steal this, steal at least half of this heist that they just all like risked their lives and almost died for.
He theorized about it, didn't say let's do it.
Well, no, he was basically saying like this is what we should do, and so Andor killed him to protect the mission, essentially.
Right, because then the very next thing, Andor jumps in and says, "Oh, where's a ship? I'm leaving," because he was never a believer in the mission either.
Well, also like he was someone who basically he's like, I want what I'm owed, and I'm gone, and he's been saying that since the beginning.
He's a merc.
But the fact that like he protected the mission as opposed to taking Skeen up on his offer was I thought a very interesting kind of like character moment for Andor, because we're seeing him very slowly kind of migrate to the side of being a revolutionary as opposed to a self-absorbed mercenary type. And I thought that the B plot with Stellan Skarsgård and Mon Mothma and stuff like that, where they get the news of like this huge like heist, and it's almost celebratory for them. We see that moment in the Imperial Senate where everyone is kind of like fucking off. I don't know, like I just liked it. I love the scene where like the Imperial intelligence guys all get together. The guy's like, okay, guys, this isn't a regular bureaucratic meeting. Like there's some shit that went down that we're going to be dealing with. And so like I feel like in addition to the spectacular, heist stuff that was going on, and it wasn't groundbreaking, but it was fun. We have the setup for the hunt now, and I have a feeling that the guy with the blue milk cereal is going to be coming in, and he's going to be like, "Look, Andor, I've dealt with this guy before. Let me help you track him down."
And I've had my cereal, so I'm ready to go.
Right.
Yeah,
My Cocoa Puffs.
Because
My mom yelled at me.
I have a feeling
my mom really motivated me to go out
Right,
there.
exactly.
Well, I have a feeling that his uncle has something to do with that Imperial Security Council, that he's going to like bring him on in some way, shape, or form. So I want to go around and get your guys' take on the Skeeve murder and then Andor fucking off. Matt Vader 74. What did you think of that scene?
It's like I said earlier. I've seen that exact same scene in a plethora of other television shows and heist movies. There's nothing new there. They probably stole the dialogue from another show, but I could have wrote that. It was so stupid, to be completely honest with you. There's nothing. It was just, hey man, we got the heist done. Now let's split it and get rid of everybody else. Screw the mission. Let's take the money and go.
Yeah, it's like every other heist movie.
It's every heist movie, a television show and episode of TJ Hooker I've ever seen, or whatever. So yeah, it's not good. It's boring.
So Brian, what did you think of the escape through the eye scene? Because I thought that was the highlight of the episode.
Yeah, it was super rad. I like that, and I like the graphics with the comments, and I also like I like the fact that the Empire had been slowly convincing these pilgrims to not come by putting bars and various nice entertainment along the path. I'm like, wow, that's pretty much what our government does. Good way to control people. A lot of this episode was actually really good. You're right. The inevitable stealing of the heist money is a trope. In fact, if I was ever actually in a heist, I would have a contingency plan for the one member that was planning on stealing what we stole. But no, I liked it. I actually liked it a lot, and I thought there was really cool effects. Some things were lingered on too long, like this show does. I don't know why it does this. I don't know why we saw so much of the bad guy's family. It seems like we just linger on a lot of stuff with the show that's unnecessary, like lingering on the milk and the cereal. Like, okay, we got it. Okay. But this episode definitely proved that this show can definitely do some stuff, and I'm starting to have a little twinge of feeling for Andor, and not the show, the character. A little twinge of feeling.
Brian, he dies at the end on
Rogue
Scarif in a
Yep.
in a Death Star blast.
Blast, right?
It's over. Doesn't matter.
It lost me now. I'm leaving, guys. This is why I don't like prequels.
I know,
Like,
right?
Oh, you're right. You just reminded me. This character that I'm starting to like
Nobody
is
cares.
100% going to die.
Hey, the Day of the Jackal was unbelievably tension filled, even though you knew what the ending was.
No, you can do a prequel, right? But
It's about the journey.
Day of the Jackal was fantastic.
The book was very good. Odin, I saw a tweet earlier today where someone said that I love that the good guys in the show will take a man's family hostage and threaten to murder them, and if he doesn't do what they say. So what do you think about like this reversal of seeing like these good guys, the rebels, threatening to do really bad stuff in order to achieve their goals?
Yeah, well, that's also something that we saw in Rogue One, because Andor, remember, there was that one scene where he just up and kills the guy like that he was talking
His
to.
informant, yeah.
Yeah, his informant. He just goes ahead and kills him. And that's actually what the sequence between these two where he kills the other guy reminded me of, because I don't know about y'all, but the way that it was being played, I did not fully believe that he was actually trying to split money with Andor. I was actually getting the vibe more of oh, is he still trying to test Andor to see if he's actually legit or not? And so that's why when he ended up killing him, my immediate thought went to, what if the guy was just trying to like bait Andor out to find out if he was actually like legit or not, and he just up and killed him and then that reminded me of that sequence from the movie. So it's like, again, that's the reason I have no care in the world for Andor whatsoever, because I just he is still very much self-focused.
Well,
because
you might have forgotten this because it was in the previous episode that you fell asleep during, but that Skeeve had a bunch of tattoos, which basically told Andor the type of person he really was.
Yeah.
Those prison tattoos?
They were tattoos from like various things. And so like when Skeeve starts recommending this stuff and Andor finds out he wasn't a true believer after all, he doesn't have a brother, he was lying the entire time. I think that he knows that it wasn't a test. Right, and so like he kills him to protect the mission.
Yeah,
So,
it's again the way it's played across on screen. It's still,
because I had that thought too.
moments.
I was like, is Skeeve testing him? Is this like another test for Andor? But regardless, I thought it was a very interesting scene. Paul, I know that you have to go after this, but I wanted to get your take on the heist and all the character building that happened in this episode. And let everyone know where they can find you once you share your final thoughts.
I think you make a really good point. I completely forgot about the tattoo scene. I think from a writing perspective, you kind of have to remind the audience of what Andor has concluded before he shoots him. Then that would have made way more sense.
Well, it also would have made sense if it was like it was originally supposed to be like all 3 episodes as one episode instead of being divided into 3.
True, but so and you can't repeat things enough in shows. It's one of the things that I've learned. I won't get into the theory of it, but it's really good for the audience perspective to repeat themes, especially before you. It's called the smoking gun, and yes, maybe you're right, because this was an editing issue because of the way they shot this originally. But if you show someone with a gun, you got to use it really quickly. You can't just wait 8 scenes and then use it. That's just, it's also the phone ringing thing, where if the camera shows you the phone, it's got to ring. That's how you direct stuff.
If they show you the blue milk cereal, you got to eat it.
You got to eat it. The fact that his mother was Jewish, I thought was very off-putting, because he did not look Jewish at all. Let me tell you,
He didn't
that
look
guy,
Jewish. Yeah.
that guy did not look Jewish. I'm telling you, it
Druish.
drove me nuts. Is
It's
this guy
Druish,
Jewish? No way. He's way too white.
it's a miss.
Yeah. I want to pull him down his pants. Pull down the pants. So now, notwithstanding that, the most interesting part of the show for me is all the Empire stuff.
Mhm.
I understand every
I love
single
that stuff.
character. I like their motivations. It's really interesting to see them interact with each other. That part I'm really enjoying. I don't know why, but I'm not enjoying any of the Andor part.
Yeah,
Anyone
So-
with me on that?
I'm
Oh
with
yeah.
you.
Well, I mean, I
Yeah.
enjoy the Andor parts too. But
No,
Paul,
but
where
not
can
as
people?
much. I mean, the Empire stuff all makes sense.
Yeah.
People are
Paul, where-
motivated. Stuff
where can
happens.
people-
Guy gets fired, has to deal with his mother who's like beating the shit out of him. This tiny,
Where-
4
where-
foot nothing
where can
mother.
people- Where can people find more of your epic rants and stuff like that?
Well, just go to YouTube and look for Call Me Chato.
There it is.
And you got a great channel too.
Thank
and,
you.
And we want to thank you
enjoying
for coming on and sharing your former executive insights with us. Really appreciate
it.
that.
I'm going out to help my son put in his 2005 rebuilt Subaru Legacy turbo engine.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
So
Sounds
thank you for
like a
being on
fun
the
afternoon.
show. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And good luck with the engine.
And good luck. Yeah, we haven't started it yet. It's all filled with starter lube. Well, speaking of
Awesome.
lube,
Starter lube. Nice.
yeah,
Not sexual at all.
Not sexual at all.
All right, Paul. Thank
Thank you
so
for
much.
having me. Bye,
you, Paul.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Well,
And someone else who has to get going really soon is Odin. So I want to get your final thoughts on Andor and where people can find you. And to everyone out there watching, we're going to briefly talk about the new Star Trek Picard trailer after Odin leaves us, takes his presence away from us. So don't leave just yet. We still got a little bit more show to do. Odin, what are your final thoughts on Andor Episode 6?
I think even if I were to, and I think I might, even if I were to combine, every 3 episodes into one single long cut, I think it would still end up being the same. Which, again, to me, it's all about the characters, because there are definitely these interesting elements. I still do think. I think I mentioned this like the first episode we actually talked about, that this is, I think, the best done of the Star Wars shows and everything that they've done so far by a mile. But the problem is that they don't have any characters that I care about. Like they have not been able to build up enough of a character and to me, they kind of started off had they created brand new characters, I think they would have had a much better chance of doing that, except instead of starting with Andor. Like, I think starting with Andor and having the entire series about Andor himself was where they went off on this, because if you had the same team behind it, but they were actually creating something new and not contingent upon like this one specific person who happens to be one of the most boring parts about the movie that he's from, then they may have had a chance here. But ultimately, I think that it's just going to continue to go on. I'm just happy I don't have to watch She-Hulk anymore, and that Rings of Power is done. It opens up my time. And then we have, what is it, the last or second last episode of House of the Dragon this week?
second to last.
It's penultimate episode.
Well, but I
Penultimate.
don't want that to the end.
No.
Yeah, that's one that I've enjoyed a lot more than I thought I would. But anyway, you can find me over at OMB Reviews on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, and all those different locations. No live stream tonight. I typically stream Tuesdays and Saturdays. No stream tonight, as I am going with the wife to go see Steve Martin and Martin Short. They are here in the Chattanooga area, so we're going to go see them do some comedy. So it should be fun.
Have you watched Only Murders in the Building?
Yes, we love that. Yes.
It's a great show. Yeah.
That's the reason why this was a
fantastic
birthday gift I got for her, since she has her birthday's over the summer. And so one of my subscribers actually told me that, oh, by the way, they're coming to the Chattanooga area. I'm like, oh, well, we both love them. That would be a perfect night. So with my family in town.
The logo for that should be Steve Martin Short, and the Martin is cut, and the color changes between each one. That would be perfect.
Yes. This is they've done several shows because I believe we actually, my wife and I saw them at another concert in New Orleans that they did, and that one was great. I think they actually ended up filming that for Netflix or for one of the streaming services.
That's cool.
So they're awesome together, and it's great. So we're so excited. We can't wait. But anyway, thank you, Salty Crew, for having me on once again. These are always fun Saturdays during my little Bubba's nap time. He just turned 2 this past week, so the grandparents are here, and so I'm gonna go see them, and he should be waking up soon.
Keep him at that age. Stop the aging, or wait till he gets 3 and then put the freeze on. Because
Yes.
three's.
I want to get past these 2s because the toddler tantrums are sometimes just a bit.
Yeah, the terrible
but
twos.
terrible twos. But yeah, he let's just say he loves Star Wars though, and he's seen the original stuff multiple times. And there's a great pictures of him in a Sith. It's going to be his Halloween costume, but it also doubles as a like as his pajamas. And so it's literally him dressed as Darth Vader, and I had a lightsaber that lights up, and he was obsessed with it. So we got a lot of really fun of him just walking around with a lightsaber.
Wait till you get to the terrible 22s, and he's at Star Wars conventions.
And
Oh,
he's still-
don't even start with teens.
or when he's 27 and still living in your house.
Cleaning up that Orion post. Doing great.
Well, anyway, continue to have a wonderful show, everybody, and I'll see y'all next time.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks for being here,
Bye.
Odin. Appreciate it.
Bye.
What Odin said there kind of got me thinking a little bit, because he's right. The backup characters in Andor don't feel Star Warsy to me.
No.
And I've said it in previous shows, but they have characters out there like Baze and Sharut. They feel Star Warsy, and I don't think it would be super hard for them to introduce new characters that we would attach ourselves to and care about, that they could move along and develop over time. But these people in this show, and I don't care about them, and they just feel like generic freedom fighter types that they've just kind of pulled out of other shows or something. You know what I mean?
I honestly think that if the show were bingeable, people's opinions would be different about it.
Maybe,
because I think the week-to-week stuff is hurting it.
Yeah, I just don't find his characters, at least the characters in his little ragtag group of heist rebels, none of them had any charisma or anything that attached me to them that made me want to care about them. So maybe I'm alone in that. I don't know. So,
well, speaking of not caring, let's talk about the new Star Trek Picard trailer.
Do I get my last take on Andor?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Real quick.
Well, there's another prequel series that is set at the same time. It's animated and it's a much better story. It's called Rebels.
Yeah.
This show is not Star Wars. Star Wars is meant for kids, and it's meant for physical children and the child at heart.
Mm-hmm.
This has none of that. This has none of that soul to it. And it is dull, boring, and like Matt said, the characters that are surrounding the title character, I could give two shits about.
Mm-hmm.
I do not care. And what Rebels did is it introduced 5 brand new characters that you cared about.
Yeah.
And you went along with their story, and you peppered in a few legacy characters along the way. But all in all, Rebels is a better prequel series than Andor is. That's my take.
I agree.
I mean, I actually disagree with that. I didn't like Rebels.
Well, you're wrong, but that's fine.
I think Star Wars might have been made for children, but I don't like the Star Wars that's made for kids. I also don't want Star Wars that was made for people that go to the library for fun either.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be an in between.
I think there's a place in Star Wars for everything. There's your kid shows, and I think they can make Star Wars that appeal to those of us like me who have been a Star Wars fan since 1977.
Right.
When I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that's cool about Andor. Even though it's not good, it still feels cinematic and it feels more adult. It's just lacking something that makes it. It needs to be a little more Star Warsy. Maybe I need a lightsaber or a Force user or something in it, or just an interesting character. I need an interesting character. Andor is not interesting to me.
No.
So what is interesting though is that when you look at Rogue One, so Tony Gilroy, the guy who wrote and executive produced Andor, he came in after the film was shot and kind of like fixed it, right? Like he used someone else's script and like rewrote it, reshot some stuff, and kind of like stealth directed all like the reshoots and things of that nature. If you look at his previous movies, like Michael Clayton and stuff like that, Andor is very much more similar to his style as opposed to like him coming in and dealing with Garth Edwards style or like whatever. So I think that there's a little disconnect here where Rogue One was good because he came in and fixed it, as opposed to this, which was like his baby from the beginning. And it's very much his style of stuff. Like if you ever watched any of like his previous work, this is very much Tony Gilroy, in style. It's very deliberately paced. It's slow. It's almost detached in terms of like characterization, so like if you ever want to know like what we're watching, watch Michael Clayton with George Clooney. It's that movie to me was incredibly frustrating, and it feels like very similar to what we're seeing with Andor. But getting back to characters that we want to care about but don't really care about, let's talk about Picard season 3.
Okay.
So they released a new trailer that features the bad guys, the big reveals, the TNG cast coming back. Matt Vader 74, what did you think of the season 3 trailer of Picard?
I am hesitantly optimistic, but at the same time, I'm incredibly frustrated because I always feel that way at the start of a new season of Picard or pretty much any Star Trek show. And I always want to go into it on the high, and I want to stay there, but I always end up, it always ends up doing this thing. And by the end of the season, I'm going to feel like Shane does about Lord of the Rings, and I'm gonna be furious again. And I'm afraid I'm just
You're not.
I'm afraid I'm gonna get burned again. Is what
You're
I
not,
feel
Vader.
like.
I love that you feel this way. I love this is such classic Vader. And when you asked that question, I was like, if he answers with anything other than optimism, hesitant optimism, or whatever you
because
said,
listen, man, the Next Generation is
right.
is my Star Trek. I love the Next
Same.
Generation. That was, I want it to be good. I didn't need these characters to come back. I was perfectly satisfied. I'm perfectly satisfied with how they all went out. And if they bring them back and they screw it up, I'm going to be really angry, and I might be just done with the franchise if they.
And I get that, dude. I'm with you. So TNG was my Star Trek too. That's what I grew up with, and Shane grew up with TOS. So when I heard this coming back, I had the same reaction, especially considering the first couple seasons of Picard.
Brian, I'm going to jump in here real quick. So seasons 1 and 2 of Picard were awful.
Yeah.
And Terry Matalas, who's the showrunner of season 3, he was involved in season 2, but from my understanding, he didn't have a lot of pull during season 2. He was just kind of like a go between Akiva Goldsman and Patrick Stewart. So this is really his baby, and we've heard from Robert Meyer Burnett, who said that Picard season 3 is back to the magic of the original or of the Next Generation. And you and Shane have had certain, like connections that have convinced you that this is going to be a return to form for Star Trek. So what can you tell us about this season and the trailer that we saw out of New York Comic Con?
Well, what I can tell you is, without spoilers, is that what we're dealing with here is there's going to be a lot of fan service in the sense where there are characters coming back, but they're not coming back in ways that don't make sense to the story. And the way they are coming back, like with this trailer, I gotta be honest with you. I'm watching this trailer, and after watching the first 2 trailers, I was like, all right, whatever, it's sort of generic, nothing special. And then the Dr. Moriarty reveal popped up, and I was like, oh my God, it's Moriarty. And I'm sitting there and I'm blown away at how crazy it is that they revealed the Moriarty. Like, I knew about a little bit about this, and I'm like shocked, right? And then the Picard logo pops, and I'm like, wow, that was a great trailer. The Moriarty is the button you need for a trailer. And then the lore reveal, it was like a double whammy. I was like, dude, they could have totally saved this for another trailer. But then I realized that like the show is around the corner. Actually, it's a few months away. So there is, even if there is another trailer, like this is the time you drop it. So I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay. From what they revealed, I can already see the critics here saying like, okay, there's a ton of fan service and there's going to be interjecting stuff just for fun and member berries. Without spoiling anything, I can guarantee you that's not the case. With at least with lore, that is not the case.
I feel like they're trolling us a little bit. I don't feel like for a second that Moriarty is going to be the big bad.
No, Moriarty. And
and the whole the Worf thing. It's like, I believe in pacifism now. Blah blah blah. So like, I don't believe that's how he's going to end up at all.
No, there's a reason why.
I know we're gonna get Worf kicking some ass in this show.
Well, in the trailer. He kicks ass,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well,
In the
I
trailer.
also want to say that the previous 2 seasons of Picard did so much damage,
Yeah.
and people are so down on this show that they needed some of these like reveals to get people excited to watch season 3, because the first 2 seasons of this show were garbage, pure unadulterated garbage.
Right. So what I can tell you about the Moriarty thing is Terry Metalis actually said it in the panel. They asked him how and why Moriarty's back, and he just said, I just wanted Professor Moriarty back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's the best answer, because you're not actually giving anything away. And that's really the exact answer to the question. He's a fan of TNG. He grew up like us watching TNG, and he wanted Moriarty back, even if it's brief.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The big bad is Vadic, played by Amanda Plummer, for sure. But she's not there. You know, there's something behind Vadic, and I'm just going to leave it there.
Cool.
And Lore, his character actually makes sense in the story. In fact, it's actually super clever the way they do it. And
Do they explain why Lore is old and fat?
yes,
They do.
and it may and I that was my question. And
Empty calories.
when my question was answered, I was like, "Oh, that actually is super clever. It actually works. It works."
Lots of bread.
Have you guys seen Marina Sirtis? Am I pronouncing that right?
Marina
Sirtis. She was on Twitter, and she was kind of like doing a unofficial poll to see, hey, would you guys like to see any other spin-offs from like the original series cast? And Gates McFadden was in there. It's like, yeah, like, you know, like we could do this. And so it seems like after Patrick Stewart bows out with this season, the stage is being set for like more next generation characters having like a spin-off series or something.
I have a theory on that.
I know Patrick Stewart said something about wanting to do one more movie or something with the cast on that panel.
Yeah, but the rest of the cast was like, nah.
Yeah. I want to know, Joker, have you seen this trailer? What did you think?
No, I don't watch Star Wars at all.
Star Trek?
Star Trek.
Okay.
I don't watch Star Trek at
So
all.
you're just out of the conversation.
I'm out. But I mean, really, the only thing I'm looking forward to is the wrenching Saturdays, and you guys just yanking your hair out again.
Oh yeah, we probably will, or maybe we will. I hope
No,
it's good. I
look,
want
guys,
it to be good.
I don't think so. I know a lot more about this season than I knew about.
You know
previous
what?
season.
And I will be happy to wrench either way, because it'll be entertaining for me. Either way.
Brian, you realize that if this is a terrible season, we're gonna be super hard on you, bro.
No, listen, there is I expect it and I invite it, but here's the deal. There are things. Look, guys, we've been doing this for a while now. We're friends. There are 100% things that I know for a fact Katie is going to be like, let's go.
That's fine.
I know
That's
for
fine.
a fact that's going to happen. But I think overall, by the end of this season, your opinion of this will definitely be, at the very least, much higher than any other current Trek is giving you.
Right on.
And I think as a whole, I think that's what with all the crap that we've been getting for the last couple of years, I think we want to be wrong.
Yeah, we do, and that's it. We do want to be wrong. I one last thing before we get out of here. I am very happy to learn that that moron Wesley Crusher is not going to be in this show.
He's not in it.
So I'm very happy about that.
What was it, Crusher?
So
Yes.
I asked every one of my sources about that, because I know they said that, but I'm like, hold up, wait a minute.
Yeah, right. There you go.
I hit every one of my sources. I'm on Instagram, on Twitter. I'm like, hey guys, hold up. Did you see Will Wheaton on the set at any time? even once, you need to tell me. And every single one, like, I never saw him there. He's not. He's not. As far as I know, he is never part of any shooting. We never saw him. He was never snuck in. I'm like, thank God.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we talked about a lot of stuff today. Why don't we go around and get final thoughts and where people can find you? Joker, thank you so much for being our special guest today.
My pleasure.
And for being in the chat. Where can people find out more about you, and what do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with us?
Final thoughts are, I'm glad to be here. I was fanboying on the bottom row there, being with Chado and Odin. That was a lot of fun. You can find me here on YouTube at Joker Voice. You can find me on Instagram at Joker Voice 71. I just did a video dropped this morning, my take on Werewolf by Night. It's not the worst thing Marvel's done in the last two years. It's moderately okay. And Monday morning, you will get my take on a show that I am very happy that I've been wrong about, and that was House of the Dragon. So quite happy with that. And thanks again for having me.
Awesome. Brian from the Popcast, any final thoughts on where can people find more about you?
Yeah, you can actually see us do a 20-minute breakdown pretty much of the last trailer for YouTube on our channel. It's the last video we did on the Popcast main channel. And if you check that out, you'll also see some theories we have about the new characters. And those theories are a little more than theories, but that's where I'll leave that. And that's it. And we have other channels you can find us on. Just look for the Popcast.
And your voice is going.
Oh yeah, I've been streaming this whole week.
You're done, man. You're done.
Yeah, this is the last. I told Shane, I'm like, after today's, I'm done for a couple of days.
So Matt Vader 74, where can people find you, and what is the future of Salty Saturdays now that
I don't know.
these shows are ending?
Really quick, I want to thank Joker for coming on and hanging out. We've been chatting a lot offline, and we both live here in Vegas. I go over and hang out at this bar every once in a
Came
while.
to the bar too, yeah.
Yeah, so it's really cool. Good having you on. And I also wanted to highlight hashtag Keep Talking. I think it's very cool that you are trying to get this Keep Talking thing going. You know, it's cool to recognize people that have disabilities and some impediments as far as that kind of stuff goes. I get it. I stammer. I don't stutter, but I'm a stammerer, and I used to do it really bad back when I was younger. So I appreciate that, and I think more people need to be aware of that, because it's hard for people to get themselves out, and especially on this platform where you're putting yourself out there in front of everybody to see. So thank you. Hashtag Keep Talking. Everybody needs to use that. Let's get it going. Also, I wanted to just really quickly tell everybody to go out to my friend's The Rogue Attractions YouTube channel. He's pushing to 1,000.
He's getting there.
He's just hit 700. So go over to his channel and hit that follow button. Tell him the Salty Nerds sent you. That's over at The Rogue Attraction. He does park stuff, park hopping type stuff.
Right.
You know, and it's cool. It's fun. You know, if you like Disneyland and Universal Studios and any of the theme parks, he does a good job. So and it's fun to see his channel grow. As far as this channel, I think I'm gonna have to discuss it with you, Matthew, but I think we're going to be in the interim going to a weekly kind of trending topics kind of format for a little bit, and we'll keep up with the Andor, and we'll see what we have to do. I'm not sure what's coming out for us to talk about as far as television shows go, because we do House of the Dragon on Mondays with Alex and Jude, and
what about Willow?
I don't know, maybe. I'm not against talking about Willow. We'll have to see how it goes. So there's a lot of stuff coming up. We just play it by ear every week, and I know Matt needs format. He needs structure.
Right.
Kadish up here does. It's his OCD goes crazy. He goes, "What are we going to talk about 6 weeks from now? I need to know. I need to know what's going on."
If you ever become a producer, you might understand.
I won't. I'm not a producer. I'm a color guy. So I get it. I understand your frustration, Matt, but I think we'll be okay. So I just want to thank everybody in the chat again for coming in and being here every week. All our regulars are here. My brother Keg Crusher is in the chat giving me shit as always. Appreciate you, bro, and all of our super chats, and E. Clay Thompson for the $1.99 super sticker. I just saw that put up there. Thanks again for the super chats, guys. And guys, I appreciate you. I love doing this every Saturday morning, talking about nerd stuff. It's fun, even if it's not good. Someday we'll talk about something that's hopefully better than what we've been getting here lately. So, Matt, take us home.
All right, just real quick, I want to give a shout out to everyone who gave us super chats today. Fluffy Panda, always appreciate you. You are so generous. I think you keep our lights on single-handedly. Whiskey Jack, thank you so much for your contribution. Mexican Iron Man and E. Clay Tomlinson, thank you guys so much for supporting the show. It really does mean a lot. We really appreciate it. We appreciate the support, and it goes a long way towards helping us reach our goal, because we want to all quit our jobs and do this full time.
Someday.
So we appreciate that one day. Anyway, everyone, thank you all so much for tuning in. Tune in next week. This week on the Salty Nerd Prime channel, we were celebrating Wormwood Apocalypse, which is part of this crazy Australian zombie series. We did an interview with the writer and director of the movie, which came out on Friday. And tomorrow we've got an interview with Bianca Brady, who plays the zombie queen. And that was a very fun interview to do. So if you guys haven't checked out Wormwood yet, check out our reviews. It's a bonkers, absolutely bonkers and fun. It's kind of like Evil Dead meets Peter Jackson's early horror work. So definitely check it out. Matt Vader is the one who turned us onto that. It was a lot of fun. Dennis Wright, thank you so much for that super sticker. I really appreciate it. And this coming week, we're doing Hellboy. We got Hellboy week coming up.
Ooh.
So, we're not doing the David Harbour one. We're doing the Guillermo del Toro. Hellboy 1 and 2.
Yeah, the good ones.
2000s. The good ones, yeah. So we're going to be discussing those. And we've also got our season finale review of C coming out as well. We're very sad to see that show go, but at the same time, we're kind of glad that it's over. But that being said, thank you all so much for coming out today, and join us next Saturday for more wonderful nerdy nonsense. And as always, stay salty, my friends.
Toodles!